This can't be happening, Kevin gasped as he held his cell phone to his ear. An eager voice replied,
It is. You're rich again.
But how? Kevin's banker smiled.
Your investment in Orion Group paid off. You now have more money than your entire family combined. Your grandpa will be so proud of you for making such a smart move with your inheritance.
Kevin clicked his tongue. I don't know about that. Don't you remember how my grandpa kicked me out of the family 2 years ago when I lost everything with this very same investment?
That's the nice thing about stocks. It's a roller coaster. If you stay on long enough, you can rise up even higher than you dropped. Within one day, you can have an insta-empire.
Looking at his lonely mattress on the floor, Kevin whispered, Has this news been made public?
Not yet, but I'm sure that he'll welcome you back with open arms. You're officially the wealthiest man in Chicago.
Kevin smiled. We'll see about that. Also, out of curiosity, just how much money do I have? Just then, Kevin was interrupted by a cold voice screaming at him from down the hall. Kevin, where are you? You said that you would help me. I'll be right there, Kevin replied. Looking at his cell phone, Kevin dropped his voice. I have to go, but thank you for calling me with this great news. Just one last thing. Can you do me a favor?
Of course, anything.
Please don't tell anyone. I want to keep this a secret for now.
Understood.
With a confident grin, Kevin hung up the phone and adjusted his clothing as he walked down the hallway to the kitchen. Standing in front of the sink, Kevin saw his mother-in-law, Dorothy, washing her hands with a nasty look on her face. Hearing Kevin, Dorothy turned around and barked. So glad that you could finally make it. These dishes aren't going to wash themselves. Kevin forced a smile. Sorry. I spilled on my shirt while I was doing the dishes earlier, so I quickly went to the room to change. I fully intended to come back and finish them. Dorothy sarcastically replied, Oh, whoa, thank you. That would be so very helpful. I mean, you've only been staying as a guest in our home for the past 2 years, but really, doing the dishes more than makes up for that. Kevin bit his tongue as he thought to himself, I pay rent to live here, plus I do a lot more than the dishes. I've become my mother-in-law's very own handyman. I mean, I have literally renovated their entire house these past few years. But I could never tell them the truth because it would upset Lily and I'm already on thin ice with her. The last thing that our relationship needs is for her parents to hate me even more than they already do. Silencing his thoughts, Kevin turned to his mother-in-law. Yes, of course. You've been so generous to me and Lily. The very least I can do is the dishes. I'll finish them right now. Please let me know if there's anything else I can do. You could make some money. You know, our Lily could have married anyone, but for whatever reason, she chose you. Remembering his recent phone call, Kevin nodded. I am going to work to prove my love for her. I promise you, one day, I will be worthy of Lily. Dorothy dried her hands and cackled. I highly doubt that. The only reason why we haven't pushed Lily to divorce you is because she was stupid enough not to get a prenup. She is the chairman of a huge corporation. I don't want you taking half of her money. Kevin paused. I would never do that. Dorothy, I love your daughter. I know that it may not seem like it to you now, but I promise you that I'm going to do right by her. Dorothy's face softened. My husband would kill me for saying this, but I really hope that you do. Thank you. Kevin nodded as he stepped around Dorothy and went to the sink. With a smile, Kevin picked up a dirty plate and continued. Now, I've got some dishes to wash. 15 minutes later, Kevin started the dishwasher and looked at his watch. It's after 5. Lily should be home by now. Walking down the hallway, Kevin heard the sound of the TV coming from the living room. Taking a deep breath, Kevin adjusted his shirt and entered the living room. Welcome home, babe. Kevin grinned at his wife, Lily. Sitting on the couch in front of him, Lily lifted her hand and politely waved. Staring at Lily's bright eyes and luscious lips, Kevin thought to himself, I still get butterflies every time that I look at her. Lily's beauty is undeniable, but that's not why I love her. She is the most driven woman I have ever met. I mean, in the past few years alone, Lily has worked her way up from assistant to chairman at her company in record time. She's incredible. Hey, Kevin. A woman who could only be described as basic chimed. Kevin nodded to his wife's best friend. Hi, Rachel. It's good to see you. Sitting next to Lily on the couch, Rachel smirked. Nice shirt. Looking down, Kevin noticed that he had spilled on his shirt again. Feeling his cheeks blush, Kevin replied, I was doing the dishes. That's so cute. At my house, we just pay someone to do that for us. Rachel cattily responded. Lily turned to Rachel. Well, not everyone can be born into wealth like you were. Some of us have to work for it. Looking at Kevin, Lily continued, and some of us have to try even harder. But when the hard work pays off, it will all be worth it. Lily secretly winked at Kevin. Kevin winked back as he thought to himself, I feel so guilty about hiding my past from her. Maybe she would understand if I just explained it to her, but at this point, it might be too late. I mean, we've been married for years now, and Lily still has no idea that I was born into one of the wealthiest families in Chicago. I hid it from her because I didn't want her to marry me because of my money. But then, as luck would have it, I literally lost everything the day that we got engaged. Closing his eyes, Kevin took a deep breath as he remembered. I'll never forget that day. I called my grandpa to tell him the good news, but he interrupted me and instead scolded me for investing my entire trust fund into Orion Corporation stocks, which unexpectedly dropped. I will never forget how my grandpa told me, I'm kicking you out of the family. It's for your own good. You need to learn the value of money. And now, years later, that Orion investment has generated more money than my entire family could ever dream of. I'm the richest man in Chicago. But how do I tell my wife the truth? She still thinks that I'm just some unemployed schmuck. I need to show her that she can trust me before I reveal my secret. Lily stood up from the couch and came over and softly kissed Kevin on the cheek. Kevin, no offense, but Rachel's right. You look like a complete mess right now. Maybe you should go freshen up. Turning back to look at Rachel sitting on the couch, Lily continued, especially since we have a guest over. Kevin nodded. Of course, I'll go change right now. After changing his shirt for the second time that night, Kevin walked towards the living room, but stopped when he heard Rachel whispering to Lily. I don't know how you do it. You're this badass boss bitch, and he's honestly kind of pathetic. He feels like the before picture in a commercial. Why do you stay with him? After a long pause, Lily whispered back. He wasn't always like this. When we first met, he was charming and confident. I don't know what happened to him, but I keep thinking that if I stay with him long enough, maybe he'll find himself again, because I really love the man who he used to be. Do you love him now? Lily bit her bottom lip. I don't know. I'd be lying if I didn't admit that sometimes I just feel like a caretaker in our relationship. He's so closed off these days. It feels like the romance is completely gone. And I know that if I were to ever talk to him about it directly, I would lose him even more. I love him, but I don't know if I'm in love with him anymore. Rachel nodded. You could have any man. You're stunning, kind, and killing it at your job. Have you thought about getting a divorce? You shouldn't stay with someone because you pity them. I don't pity him. I just wish that he could be the man who he used to be. Honestly, I don't want to talk about this right now. I spend my entire day putting out fires at work. The last thing in the world that I want to do is put them out at home. Rachel paused. Of course, that makes sense. But what's going on at work? You seem more stressed than usual. Lily sighed. My company received a new contract last month and there was an error in the calculation of the data. Our products did not meet the requirements, so we need to compensate them with $7 million. My company's funds are not going to be able to turn around, which means that I need to get at least $4 million of investment in a week. Otherwise, my company will most likely go bankrupt. I can't do that to my employees. Rachel's eyes widened. How are you supposed to find someone willing to invest $4 million in less than a week? Just then, Lily turned around and saw Kevin standing in the hallway. With a tear falling down her soft cheek, Lily whispered, "Kevin, I'm sorry to say this, but Rachel and I need some privacy. Can you please give me some space?" Feeling distraught over his wife's pain, Kevin slowly nodded. "Of course. I'll go back to the bedroom. It was good to see you, Rachel." Rushing back to his room, Kevin promised himself, "I have to help her. I will prove to Lily that I am the man who she married, not the shell of a human being who I've been these past 2 years. I'm going to create my own empire." Taking out his cell phone, Kevin gasped when he saw that he had over 10 missed calls from his grandfather's estate. Looking at the screen, Kevin asked himself, "Why did my grandpa call me so many times? He hasn't called me in over 2 years. The last time we spoke, he kicked me out of the family. I wonder if he knows about the money." Kevin saw his grandpa's name flash on his screen. Taking a deep breath, he read the message. "Kevin, I was wrong about you. Your family needs you. I know all about your recent success with Orion Corporation, and we need that money in order to save the family line. If you don't help us, the Williams family will collapse completely." Kevin looked at the message in a daze. Just 2 years ago, his family had kicked him out because of his investment in Orion Corporation. They had left him with nothing, just days before his wedding. And now, because of the same investment, his grandpa was asking him to help the Williams family. "This feels like a sick joke," Kevin sighed. As he was thinking, his phone vibrated again with a message from the same number. "Kevin, we've lost everything. After a few bad investments, we're going bankrupt. Please, save us with your new money. If you do, I promise that I will find a way to make it up to you. You will be a member of the Williams family again. Don't you want to be the man who you used to be?" Remembering his wife's desire for him to be his old self, Kevin nodded and texted back, "I'll meet you tomorrow. And Grandpa, we have a lot to discuss." Ever since my grandpa kicked me out of the Williams family estate, I shut down. I had to numb myself in order to deal with the pain of losing everything. And sadly, I know that it's hurt my marriage with Lily and my career. But now that my investment with Orion has paid off, the tables have turned, and I'm ready to be the man who I used to be. First things first, though, I need to find out just how rich I really am. Kevin hurriedly pulled out his wallet and found his black card. It had been over 2 years since he had last touched his black card. To this day, his wife Lily still didn't even know that it existed, just like she didn't know a lot of other things about his past. "I've got this," Kevin said as he turned the black card around and dialed the VIP number on the back. A sweet, supportive voice answered. "Hello, Mr. Williams. Welcome to the Black Card Private VIP Customer Service. May I ask if you need any help?" "Hello. I'd like to check the balance of my account." Kevin seemed very excited. His voice could not help but be a little louder than usual. "Of course. Just one moment, please." The customer service was quiet for a while. Then Kevin heard the soft voice again. "Hello, Mr. Williams? Are you still there?" "I am. Would you, please be able to check my bank balance?" "Mr. Williams, I apologize, but the balance on your black card is unfortunately too big for me to handle over the phone. It appears that the digits are higher than our computer is able to process. In order to get your exact account balance, we would need you to come in person and meet with someone from our VIP office. Would that work for you?" Kevin coughed. "I'm sorry, did you say that my balance has more numbers than your computer can handle?" "Yes, I didn't know that that was even possible. I've worked this job for over 10 years, and this is the first time that I've ever had this happen." "Mr. Williams, I think it's safe to say that you are the richest man in Chicago." After hanging up the phone, Kevin excitedly mouthed, "Yes." Just then, he heard Rachel cackle from the other side of the door. "Lily, did you hear that? Your husband just called to check the bank balance. So pathetic." Rolling his eyes, Kevin opened the door and ran up to Lily. I didn't mean to eavesdrop earlier, but I heard you mention that your company urgently needs $4 million or else it will go bankrupt. I can help you solve this problem." Rachel burst into laughter. "You help Lily solve a problem? Ha! Kevin, I think you're crazy. She needs $4 million, not 4 million IOUs. You have been living off your wife for the last 2 years. Don't pretend like you're some big hero now, when in reality you're just offering her empty promises. We all know that there is no way that you would ever be able to give her $4 million. "Oh, so you don't believe me?" Kevin snapped back. After a long pause, Kevin turned to Rachel and smiled. "Remember this moment, because it's going to feel really good for me to tell you I told you so." Lily shook her head. "I don't appreciate you both laughing at the fact that my company is about to go under. This isn't some competition between the two of you. These are people's lives that you're joking about. And it's my responsibility to save them. So Kevin, as much as I would love for you to pay the $4 million, we both know that's impossible since you haven't been able to hold down a permanent job since we got married. And Rachel, I love you, but you're not being helpful right now. I should go to bed. It's going to be a long, painful day tomorrow. I need to get some rest." Without saying goodbye, Lily held back her exhausted tears as she went to the bedroom at the back of the house. Kevin pursed his lips and replied, "Okay." Then he really shut up and walked away. That night, Kevin could tell that Lily wanted to be alone, so he slept on the couch hoping to give her space. As he lay on the couch, he couldn't stop thinking about the conversation that he had with his bank. Am I really the richest person in Chicago? If that's true, then I can finally be the man that I was when I first met Lily. She has taken care of me these past few years, and now it's my turn to take care of her. Things are going to be different from this moment forward. I'm going to build her an empire. The following morning, Kevin woke up to the sound of his mother-in-law, Dorothy, scoffing. "Of course you fell asleep on the couch. You were probably playing video games all night instead of finishing your chores. I don't know what my daughter sees in you." Kevin quickly got off the couch. "No, that's not what happened. I actually slept out here because Lily—" Dorothy interrupted. "Speaking of Lily, she should be on her way to work now. I'll go check on her." "Great. And can you tell her that I need her car to run some errands? So why don't you make yourself useful for once and drive your wife to work?" Biting his tongue, Kevin nodded. "But I don't have a car. I only have my old motorbike." "It'll have to do. What are you waiting for? Go get your wife." Kevin paused. "Of course. I'll go get her now." Walking down the hallway, Kevin knocked on his bedroom door. "Lily, you up?" Lily answered, "Yes, I'm running late though. I don't have time to talk. I need to head to work." "That's what I wanted to tell you. Your mom is taking your car, so I'm going to drive you to the office." Lily opened the door, and Kevin felt his mouth literally drop when he saw her. Standing in a feminine take on a classic pinstripe business suit, Lily looked absolutely stunning. "You look beautiful," Kevin gasped. Lily tucked her hair behind her ear. "Thank you, but can we continue this conversation in the car? I'm in a hurry." "Of course, let's go," Kevin replied. Kevin helped lift Lily onto the back of his motorbike. Lily wrapped her arms around Kevin's waist as he thought to himself, "I love this feeling. From this moment forward, I'm going to start steering our relationship. I'm going to be the man who Lily wants me to be, the man that she deserves." Stopping at a red light, Kevin turned around to find Lily biting her bottom lip. With a gentle sigh, Kevin asked, "How are you feeling? You look great, but I know you, and you only bite your bottom lip when you're stressed." Lily nodded. "You could say that I'm a little stressed. I checked the report this morning and it confirmed my worst nightmare. The company isn't going to get any external investor support, which means that by the end of the week, we're going to officially declare bankruptcy. This morning, the major shareholders are holding a shareholders meeting. As the company's chairman, I have to be there. And to be honest, I just feel so terrible about all of the employees that are going to lose their jobs. It's all my fault." "You weren't the one who made the mistake which caused this," Kevin replied. "Yes, but I'm the chairman, and as a boss, It is my job to hold myself accountable for everything that happens with the company." Lily stopped herself. The light turned green. "Would you mind gunning it? I'm already so late." Kevin nodded and sped forward. Minutes later, they arrived at the company's entrance at a record time. Lily smiled as she let go of Kevin's waist. "I can't believe how fast you got me here. Maybe I should have let you drive me to work months ago." Just as Kevin was about to respond, he was interrupted by the sound of a car parking next to them. Turning to their right, both Kevin and Lily saw a brand new BMW i8 pull up beside Kevin's old motorbike. The door opened and a tall man in a tailored suit stepped out of the car. "Hi, Bradley," Lily politely smiled. Ignoring Kevin's presence, Bradley stepped forward and hugged Lily. "Good morning, Lil. It's so good to see you." Bradley Smith then turned to Kevin and laughed. "Lily, did you order the world's crappiest Uber or what? If you needed a ride, I could have driven you. That motorbike is pathetic. No offense." Kevin forced a smile. "I'm not her Uber driver. I'm actually her husband." Seeing Bradley's shocked face, Kevin smirked as he reached his hand forward. "I'm Kevin. It's nice to meet you." Reaching his manicured hand towards Kevin's, Bradley replied, "So this is the famous Kevin. I've heard so much about you. You know Rachel, Lily's best friend. Well, she does the best impression of you. It's so nice to put a face to your, name. And Kev, you are exactly what I expected." Lily uncomfortably shook her head. "Bradley, that's out of line." "Of course. I was just messing with him. You can take a joke, can't you, Kevin?" Kevin nodded. "I can when they're funny." Bradley smirked. "Touché. Lily, I'm so glad that I bumped into you this morning. I've heard about everything going on and my heart aches for you. So I brought you a little pick-me-up." Bradley went back to his car, opened the trunk, and took out a stunning rectangular gift box. With a snake-like smile, Bradley handed the box to Lily. "Take a look. Do you like it?" Lily opened the box and gasped. "Oh, my goodness. This is the most beautiful necklace that I've ever seen. Bradley, you shouldn't have. This is much too extravagant of a gift." Bradley smiled. "I knew you would like it." Feeling his chest tighten, Kevin thought to himself, "I am going to help save Lily's company, but first things first, I need to handle Bradley. He's up to no good, and it's my job to stop him." "A beautiful woman deserves a beautiful necklace. Ain't that right, Kevin?" Bradley smirked. Kevin leaned forward and pursed his lips as he saw the necklace that Bradley had gifted his wife, Lily. The entire necklace was inlaid with countless dazzling crystals. Kevin couldn't take his eyes off the big diamond core pendant that weighed at least 3 carats in the center of it. "The Dream Lover necklace," Kevin whispered to himself. "What was that?" Bradley asked. "That's impossible. There's no way that that's real. The Dream Lover necklace was made by the famous French jewelry designer Diane. It was made up of 180 crystals and a 3-carat diamond. There are only 10 versions of the necklace in the world. That has to be a knockoff." "It's not a knockoff. It's a top-of-the-line copy of one. Lily, I remember how much you loved the Dream Lover's necklace, and since it's impossible to buy a real one, I spent $100,000 to have a jeweler create a copy of it for you. And if you give me some more time, I will one day find the real Dream Lover for you." Lily closed the gift box and said with a somewhat regretful expression, "It's normal that you can't buy it. After all, there are only 10 real Dream Lovers in the world. 2 years ago, I heard that in an auction, a Dream Lover was sold at a high price of $2.8 million. So you don't have to worry about finding me the real one. Plus, this is a really good copy. I love it. Thank you." When he heard Lily's words, Bradley's heart stopped as he thought to himself, $2.8 million? My entire net worth was only around $3 million. There is no way that I'll ever be able to buy it for her. With an awkward smile, Bradley replied, "Sounds like this Dream Lover is very popular." Kevin reached forward. "Here, Lily, why don't you let me bring the necklace home for you? After all, I'm your husband. It's the least I can do." "Thank you, Kevin. That would be really helpful." Kevin reached for the necklace, but as soon as his hand grasped it, he felt it accidentally slip through his fingers onto the ground. With a fake shocked look on his face, Bradley gasped, "Kevin, how could you? You threw it on the ground on purpose. That necklace was for Lily. Why would you do that to her?" At that moment, Kevin turned around to see several of Lily's co-workers crowding around them. One woman whispered to the other, "I know. I don't know why she married him. She could do so much better." Lily took a deep breath. "I'm sure that it was an accident, wasn't it, Kevin?" Feeling his face turn red in anger, Kevin snapped, "I'm sorry that it happened. Lily, you deserve the real thing, not just some fake copy of it from a douche like Bradley." Seeing the employees gossiping to one another, Lily stepped forward and whispered into Kevin's ear, "Kevin, please apologize to Bradley. We're at my job, and I have a lot going on today. Even if it was an accident, you need to apologize to Bradley because this is my work. It's important to me. I can't have drama like this happen, especially not this week." Kevin slowly nodded and turned to Bradley. "I'm sorry that I dropped the necklace that you got from my wife." "Thank you," Lily mouthed to Kevin. Turning to both Kevin and Bradley, Lily continued, "I'm already running so late. I have to go. But thank you both. I'll talk to you soon." After Lily got into the elevator, Kevin bent down, picked the necklace up, and tossed it to Bradley. In shock, Bradley reached for the necklace but missed. This time when it fell, a fake diamond popped out onto the ground. Kevin turned around and began walking towards his motorbike as he heard Bradley's angry roar from behind him. "Stop! I know you can hear me. I command you to stop!" Bradley screamed as he chased Kevin. Bradley continued, "This necklace is worth more money than you could ever imagine, and you broke it. How do you expect to fix the damage? Poor Lily, you just won't let her have anything nice, will you?" Kevin turned around and looked at Bradley with an expressionless face. "1. Lily is my wife. You'd better stay away from her." Kevin calmly climbed onto his motorbike and continued, 2. It's my job to give gifts to my wife. So tonight, I'll give her the real dream lover. She deserves more than a knockoff, and she deserves it from her husband, not you." After a pause, Kevin looked at Bradley and smirked. 3rd, move. You're blocking the exit." Bradley furiously watched Kevin drive away as he yelled, "Nice try, idiot. You can't even afford a car. How do you expect to buy the dream lover? You're such a loser." Bradley bent over and picked a rock off the ground. He threw it with all of his might and hit the back of Kevin's motorbike. Bradley gave himself a self-satisfied smile as Kevin drove away, unaware that his light was smashed. A couple of Lily's co-workers took out their cell phones and snuck photos of Kevin's broken motorbike as he drove away. On the top floor of the skyrise, Lily sat behind her desk. Her eyes were filled with anger as she looked out the window and thought to herself, "Kevin knew how important today is for me, and yet he still picked a fight with Bradley. I know that Bradley was out of line, but that's just who Bradley is. Besides, Bradley is the best shot that I have to finding an investor. I can't risk upsetting him now. The company depends on it. And now that Kevin offended him, how am I going to get Bradley to get his boss at the Williams Company to invest $4 million into my company to save it?" Seeing Kevin's name on her phone, Lily bit her bottom lip and answered, "I can't talk right now." "Lily, I'm sorry about earlier. I know how stressed you are, and I shouldn't have taken Bradley's bait. It's just that guy gets under my skin." Lily shook her head. "That guy is the best chance that I have for saving my company. He directly reports to the Williams family, and I don't know if you know who they are, but they are the richest family in Chicago. They could save my company." Kevin laughed to himself. It still amazes me how after all of these years, Lily still hasn't connected the fact that my last name is the same last name as the Williams Company. She must think that it's just a coincidence. Well, she is right about one thing. Even though the Williams family is secretly bankrupt, there is a Williams family member who is now officially the richest man in Chicago, and I'm going to save her company. I can't tell her the truth just yet, though. I mean, I've lied to her for too long about my true family. I need to pick the right moment to be honest with her, or else I could risk losing her forever. I promise that things are going to be okay. Now I'll let you go because I know you're busy, but I just wanted to say that I love you, Lily. Lily felt her eyes well with tears. I know you do. Hanging up, Kevin declared to himself, I'm going to make Lily love me again. It's not her fault, it's mine. I let myself disappear after the money went away. But I'm going to make things better. I'm finally feeling like myself again, and that means I can finally be the man that Lily deserves. Taking a deep breath, Kevin looked at his phone and pressed the name of the person who had exiled him and left him with nothing only 2 years ago. I knew you would call. An old, rough voice answered. Hello, Grandpa. Let's not waste any time with fake formalities. I'm calling to let you know that I can help solve the crisis of Williams' family with my money. But in exchange for that, I have 2 conditions. 1, before 6 o'clock tonight, you will give me a Dream Lover necklace. 2nd, at the downtown family branch, there is a person named Bradley. I want him removed from the building immediately. Still sitting on his motorbike, Kevin hung up the phone with his grandpa and thought to himself, the tables have turned. Now I finally have all the power. This is going to be fun. Just then, Kevin received a text message from his wife, Lily. Kevin took a deep breath and read, I'm sorry about our call earlier. I wish that things could feel like they used to between us. But I wanted to remind you about my family gathering tonight. Could you please pick up something new to wear? You know how judgmental my family can be. It would mean a lot if you made a good impression since I already have so much pressure from them about my job. Thank you, X's and O's. Kevin smiled as he typed back, Of course, anything for you. I promise to make you and your family proud tonight. I love you. Taking off his helmet, Kevin got off his motorbike and looked straight ahead at the luxury neighborhood in front of him. What Lily didn't know was that Kevin had just arrived at the Golden Domain, also known as the most luxurious neighborhood in Chicago. Minutes later, Kevin was sitting on a familiar couch in his grandfather's foyer. Standing on the opposite side of the room, Kevin's Uncle Thomas took a deep breath. Your grandfather couldn't be here, so he sent me in his place. Kevin stayed sitting on the couch as his father's brother stepped forward and gave him an awkward hug. It's good to see you, nephew. You look very different than you did the last time we spoke. If anything, I would say that you look like you've been enjoying your freedom. This sabbatical has done wonders for you, Uncle Thomas continued. Kevin rolled his eyes. Are we calling me being kicked out of the family a sabbatical now? Kevin, I want you to know that I never meant for that to happen. It was just an unfortunate... Kevin interrupted. I'm not here to argue about the past, so let's just get straight to the point. How much money does the Williams family need? Always used to being in charge, Uncle Thomas pursed his lips and answered. Actually, it's not a lot of money. Kevin raised his eyebrows. How much is not a lot of money? $8 billion. Kevin laughed. $8 billion isn't a lot of money? You kicked me out of the family for investing a lot less than that. Uncle Thomas paused. Well, we were wrong. It turns out that your bad investment is the only thing that can save our family dynasty. So what do you say? Can we borrow $8 billion? Kevin stood up and replied, Uncle, I suddenly remembered that I have something very important to do. Don't worry, I'll see myself out. Uncle Thomas quickly stopped him. If you don't give us the $8 billion, the Williams family legacy will be destroyed. Kevin, please, I'm begging you. You're the only person who can save the family empire. I have already asked my men to complete the 2 requests that you mentioned. Please, you can't leave now. I'll do anything. Kevin calmly replied to the man who he had once feared. Uncle, it's not that I don't want to help the Williams family get through this crisis, but if I'm being honest, I don't think that I have $8 billion to give you. Kevin, are you seriously going to play dumb? Have you not checked the value of your stocks? Your grandfather and I know that the 20% of the shares you invested in the Orion Group is worth at least $9.3 billion now, and the value is going up as we speak. Uncle Thomas paused for a moment, then softened his tone. Kevin, you must have a conscience. You can't forget that you are also a member of the Williams family. This is your legacy that I'm trying to protect. Kevin felt his heart race as he thought to himself, I have over $9 billion. Just this morning, I had less than $50 in my savings. This is a dream come true. I can finally build my own empire. After a long silence, Kevin coolly replied, Uncle, you didn't seem to care about my legacy when you kicked me out of the family 2 years ago. Why should I care about it now? Uncle Thomas was speechless as Kevin continued. I have a wife now. Did you know that? I had gotten engaged the day that you decided to exile me. I'm a son-in-law to another family. Why should I show loyalty to you over them? Taking a deep breath, Kevin clenched his fist tightly and finished. If it wasn't for the fact that you were all going bankrupt, I don't think you would have ever reached out to me again. You left me for dead. Now why should I bring you back to life? Uncle Thomas was silent for a few seconds, then he said in a deep voice, Kevin, I know what we did was wrong. I apologize to you on behalf of the family. We messed up. There's no way that I can sugarcoat this. But I am begging you, your family needs you. The Williams dynasty will fall without your help. He paused for a moment as if he was making some kind of important decision. Finally, he looked at Kevin with a firm gaze. Kevin, if you are willing to help the Williams family, I can let you become the president of the Williams Media. All that it would take is 1 day for me to finalize the formalities. Tomorrow you would be able to take over the position. You would have your own company. Kevin smirked. Isn't Williams Media your wife's company? You're always so quick to give away other people's things to benefit yourself, aren't you? She would gladly offer it to you to save the family. Williams Media is one of our most profitable and high-profile companies. It's the largest and most successful entertainment company in America. Just think of all the celebs that we've signed. It would all be yours. Gritting his teeth, Kevin nodded and said, I accept your conditions. Williams Media will be my first acquisition in my journey to create my own family empire. But I wasn't lying before. I do have to go. I've got somewhere very important to be. Uncle Thomas paused. So do we have a... Kevin interrupted. Yes, we have a deal. Thank you. I wasn't sure if you would help us after everything that we did to you. I can't express how much this means to the family. Kevin smiled. We're family, and I hope that this is a lesson for all of us to remember that family is more important than money. I may be 2 years too late, but I have learned that. Thank you, Kevin. Leaving his family's mansion, Kevin looked at his watch. Oh no, I'm going to be late for my high school reunion. Hopping on his motorbike, Kevin began driving as he thought to himself. This will be the first time that I've seen everyone since we graduated. It's been years. I'm excited to go to the reunion and show them the man that I've become. Driving back home to change, Kevin smiled. My luck is changing. I can feel it. By the end of today, I will have earned my family's respect, my old classmates' envy, my in-laws' approval, and most importantly, my wife's love. On the other side of town, Lily walked down the hallway at her office and heard her coworkers giggling. Entering the break room, Lily saw a few of her coworkers staring at their phones and cackling. Through the gap between them, Lily saw the video that they were watching. It was Kevin driving away on his old motorbike with the shattered light in the back. One of Lily's coworkers smirked. That's so embarrassing. How is our chairwoman married to a man who rides a broken-down motorbike? It looks like something you would find in the dump. I know. He's such a loser. It's a miracle that they haven't divorced yet. A caddy girl took a sip of water and interrupted. You'll never guess what I heard him say earlier. He swore that he was going to buy the Dream Lover necklace for the chairman. He wants to buy the Dream Lover? I'm going to die of laughter. We've seen what he drives. How in the world would he ever be able to afford something as rare and luxurious as the Dream Lover necklace? He isn't just broke, he's delusional. That's too funny. He's such an idiot. The co-workers all burst into laughter until one of them turned, saw Lily, and gasped. Chairman, so sorry, we didn't know you were here. Lily paused and calmly replied. It seems like there are a lot of things that you don't know. Maybe you should be more careful the next time you call someone an idiot. Chairman, I'm sorry. We will return to our desks immediately, Lily's co-worker apologized. Feeling overwhelmed, Lily quickly returned to her office and closed the door. Sitting down at her desk, Lily started sobbing as she thought to herself, I know that Kevin isn't an idiot. I just wish that he would remember that. Then maybe he and I could give our relationship another go. I haven't given up on him. Yet. When Kevin returned home, he opened the door and found his mother-in-law, Dorothy, sitting in the living room watching TV. When she heard him enter, she opened her mouth and called him, Kevin, come here. I need to ask you something. Kevin nodded and quickly sat on the sofa next to Dorothy. Kevin, you and Lily have been married for over 2 years now and still no grandchildren. Does your family have any genetic history or issues with fertility? No. My parents are very healthy, and I've never heard of any genetic diseases in our family, Kevin nervously replied. Dorothy raised the corner of her eyes and crossed her arms to look at Kevin. Really? You know, it's weird that I don't know that much about your parents. Maybe we should schedule a doctor's appointment for you and your parents to get tested. That way we can see if there are any bad genes on your side. There's no need. I have always been in good health. I don't want to waste any money, Kevin awkwardly responded. Why are you being so defensive? All that I'm asking is for your parents to get a checkup. Honestly, Kevin, it's for their own good. I won't take no for an answer. Now I have to go run an errand, but I'll see you tonight at the family get-together. After his mother-in-law left the room, Kevin shook his head and checked his watch. I need to change ASAP. I'll deal with my mother-in-law's issue later. I have a class reunion to attend. After changing his clothes, Kevin hopped on his motorbike and rode to the fanciest hotel in Chicago, the Rose Hotel. After parking his motorbike outside the lobby, Kevin quickly fixed his windswept hair and stepped down onto the pavement.
Kevin, is that you?
A handsome man called out from a parked Mercedes-Benz S32. The man stuck his head out of his car window and flashed a $1 million smile at Kevin. The moment Kevin saw him, his eyes were filled with surprise. Tucker, look at you. You haven't aged a day. Something tells me you're still just as popular as you always were. Tucker grinned back. Let's just say I'm a lucky guy. Glad to hear. That's a nice car you've got there. Tucker looked at Kevin's motorbike. And you're still as eccentric as ever. Did you really ride that here? Yes, it was one of the first things that I bought with my own money. Earning something feels different than being handed it. Tucker paused and shrugged his shoulders. Cool story, bro. What do you say? Should we head in and see who's aged beautifully and who's aged poorly? As soon as Kevin and Tucker entered the ballroom, everyone turned to greet them. Tucker, it's so good to see you, a familiar man yelled. Tucker waved back. And look who I brought with me. Little Kevin is all grown up. The man waved to Kevin and then whispered to another student. Kevin was always a bit of an outsider back in high school, but now he's hanging out with someone as cool as Tucker. Maybe there's more to Kevin than meets the eye. I think you're right, the former classmate replied. Looking around the room, Kevin thought to himself, wow, I'm the most underdressed person here. I like being underestimated. With a big smile, Kevin turned to his right. Hey, Tucker, I'm going to go grab a seat. Let's catch up more later. Sure thing, dude, Tucker replied. Sitting at an empty table, Kevin was happy to have a little space. It had been a while since he had seen everyone, and it was nice to be able to sit back and take everything in. Kevin gasped when he saw his former classmate, Brittany, enter the room. Wow, she looks stunning. I'm not surprised, though. Brittany was the most popular girl in high school. I figured she would have left Chicago by now. Just as Kevin lifted his hand to wave at Brittany, Tucker quickly jumped in front of him and yelled, Hey, Brit, did you forget about me? Brittany walked over with an all-knowing smile on her face. Tucker, you haven't changed one bit. Tucker laughed. You say that like it's a bad thing. Brittany tilted her head to the side and laughed. We did date on and off throughout high school, so it can't be too bad. You're right, Brit. We had some good times back in the day. But look at you now. You look amazing. What are you up to? Brittany bit her bottom lip. Well, I know it's a bit cliche, but I'm about to sign with an agency. No shit. You're really doing it. Brittany's cheeks turned red. Well, I'm trying to. I haven't signed anything yet, but it's looking good. You were always meant for bigger things, Britt. To think, I'll be able to say I knew her when. Tucker grinned. Suddenly, a group of girls sat down at the table with Kevin. One of the girls turned to the other and whispered, "I heard that Brittany is about to become a superstar. She's too sweet to ever brag about it, but Brittany is going to sign with Williams Media next week." Another girl replied, "No way. Williams Media is the biggest media company in America. If Brittany signs with them, then she'll be famous before we know it." A small mousy girl popped up from her seat. "I'm going to ask Brittany for an autograph." The two other girls nodded. "Good idea. It might be worth something one day." "Hey, Brittany, can we get your autograph?" The three girls harmonized as they stepped in between Brittany and Tucker. Seeing Brittany handle them with grace and humility, Kevin smiled to himself. Good for Brittany. I'm so glad that she's still pursuing her dream. And if she is really signing with Williams Media, then I should get to know her a little better. After all, as of tomorrow, I will be the official owner of Williams Media. This will be a good chance for me to familiarize myself with my clients. Just then, Brittany and Tucker came and sat down at the table with Kevin. Turning to his right, Kevin gasped to himself. Just my luck. Brittany sat down right next to me. Something tells me I'm going to love running Williams Media. I'll finally have a chance to create my own empire. Looking into Brittany's beautiful almond-shaped eyes, Kevin smiled to himself. But first things first, I need to go talk to my newest client. Kevin felt a little excited at the idea of running Williams Media and talking with Brittany, who would be his newest client. However, just as his butt touched the chair, Brittany looked at him indifferently. "Sorry, I'm saving this seat for Jessica." "Huh? I thought Jessica was sitting over there." Kevin pointed at a voluptuous woman who was at least 7 or 8 seats away from them. His face was filled with confusion. Brittany frowned and looked very unhappy. She raised her hand to cover her nose and said in a muffled voice, "You seem to have a strange smell. I feel uncomfortable, so can I trouble you to change seats?" Kevin was stunned. He raised his arm to sniff. It didn't smell. He had just changed into clean clothes before he went out. This woman must have a problem with her nose. "Kevin, you haven't taken a shower for a few days, have you?" commented one of the guys. A female classmate sitting next to him quickly said, "Come on now, I'll change seats with you, Kevin. Don't make Beauty Brit so sick that she can't eat." Kevin wanted to argue, but at that moment his old friend Zach walked over and urged Kevin to get up. They found a corner and sat down together. Zach explained, "Look, Kevin, Brittany is not a woman we can get close to. You are asking for trouble. Come on, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Let's have a drink." Kevin looked at Brittany, who was talking and laughing with Tucker. He shook his head and sneered. He picked up the glass and clinked it with Zach. The two of them drank as if there was no one else around. Zach might be the only one among the group of old classmates who treated him sincerely. When Zach was bullied in school, Kevin had helped him with his fights in the past. As the drinks began to flow, the guests suggested that they should all play music, dance together, and play a game or something. Most people remembered that Brittany had been a fabulous dancer since primary school, so they started to cheer her on and let the future big star put on a show for everyone. Buzzed off the drinks, Brittany's beautiful face was flushed, which added to the already intoxicating atmosphere of the reunion. Unable to resist the unanimous request of her classmates, Brittany got up and walked to the middle of the private ballroom, dancing slowly along with the music. Her bright, misty eyes swept across everyone who was there. Her slender waist moved quickly, then more slowly, her entire body dancing like softly flowing water. It was particularly charming. All the male students were entranced, and some had already unconsciously gasped in wonder. Stunning! She was too beautiful. Brittany was even more attractive than she had been back in school. The gathering finally ended as evening fell. Because the class president and the head teacher were busy today and were unable to attend, everyone got together and arranged to meet again in the future. When Brittany was about to leave, several male classmates rushed to say goodbye and offered rides in their fancy cars. In the end, Brittany said that she already had a car, and the driver was already waiting outside. So everyone watched Brittany get into the latest Maserati and speed away. The guys who were still fighting over the chance to see Brittany off were all left with embarrassed expressions on their faces. Zach saw the Maserati turn around and could not help but whisper in Kevin's ear, "Brittany is so beautiful. I would give up 5 years of my life just to sleep with her once." Kevin smiled helplessly. Just as he was about to say something, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. "Fly me to the moon." Everyone within earshot immediately looked at Kevin. What year was this? Why did he still use such an old-fashioned song as a ringtone? Kevin took out his phone. When he saw that the caller was his wife, he smiled and answered the call.
Lily asked him, "Did you buy the clothes I asked you to get for the meeting? After you take care of that, we'll meet at home."
Her tone was very cold. After she'd finished speaking, she hung up the phone. Only then did Kevin remember that he had not bought the clothes yet. He quickly exchanged contact information with Zach and then rode away on his little electric scooter in a hurry. The women who saw this snickered. Oh my God, Kevin actually rode a tiny electric bike to attend the get-together. Do you think he'll run out of juice before he gets there? They burst into laughter. Even though Kevin was already pretty far away, he could still hear them clearly. On the other side of town, Lily was about to leave the office when a man in a black suit suddenly appeared in front of her with a gift box in his arms. "You are?" Lily said as she looked at the unfamiliar man in front of her with a puzzled expression. The man in the suit handed the box to Lily and said very politely, "This is a gift for you from our boss." At this time, two of Lily's assistants walked over and looked curiously at the man and the gift box in his hands. "Wow, Madam Chairman, a gift from an admirer." Lily glared at them and pretended to be angry. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't have any suitors." Lily turned to look at the man in the suit and hesitated for a moment before taking the box. "Who is your boss?" The man replied, "Sorry, the boss said that he hopes you can guess his identity. The gift is for you personally. I hope that you have a good time tonight." After saying that, he turned around and left. Lily looked at the gift box in her hand and finally decided to open it to see what it was. When she opened it, she was instantly stunned. The two assistants beside her could not help but let out a scream. "Oh my God, this is the Dream Lover." The rare necklace sparkled in the light. "Oh my God, there are only 10 Dream Lovers in the world. Madam Chairman, your admirer is so generous." Lily could tell at a glance that this was an authentic Dream Lover. Because she had such a strong interest in the Dream Lover bordering on an obsession, she had researched everything related to it in detail. The one she was holding in her hands was definitely genuine. Lily looked at the Dream Lover that was lying in the gift box and felt that it was surreal. Was she dreaming? Who exactly gave it to her? Could it be Bradley Smith? But even to Bradley Smith, the Dream Lover was still out of reach. Could it be that he really liked her so much that he'd spent all his savings to buy the Dream Lover for her? Thinking of this, Lily couldn't help but feel very moved in her heart. If she wore the Dream Lover to tonight's family get-together, she would definitely become the envy of all the women in the family. Lily felt her heart skip with even more excitement. At the same moment, Kevin was trying to figure out what to do about his clothes. He went to the mall and walked around. Most of the suits were in his style. Maybe it was because they were all off the rack and not tailored. He felt that none of the suits fit him very well. Finally, his solution was to call the personal secretary that Uncle Thomas had arranged for him that afternoon. She was very efficient. In less than half an hour, she sent someone to make a simple handmade tailor-made suit and had it sent to Kevin. He carried his clothes under his arm as he rode the electric scooter back to the Joneses family neighborhood. As soon as he entered the house, he saw his wife Lily standing in front of the mirror in the living room, admiring the Dream Lover on her neck. It seemed like his wife was very satisfied with the gift he had given her. She quickly put it on the moment she received it. With the Dream Lover on her graceful swan-like neck, she became even more noble and elegant. Upon seeing Kevin as she walked back from the mirror, Lily instantly hid her exhilarated expression. She looked away to check her clothes and did not look back. She completely ignored that Kevin even existed. Dorothy, who was on the sofa, frowned as she looked at the dark black bag in Kevin's hand. She urged, "Are those the clothes you bought? Hurry up and change. We'll leave in 5 minutes." "Okay, I'll get dressed right away," Kevin responded and quickly went into the other room. He changed his clothes as fast as he could, combed his hair, and then walked out. Dorothy looked at Kevin, who was wearing a dark gray suit, and her face showed a rare look of satisfaction. She nodded and said, "This suit isn't bad. You're finally dressed like a man who has some class." "Hurry up. I don't want to be late again," Lily said as she sized Kevin up. The unhappiness in her eyes also melted away a little. She slipped her feet into her high heels and walked out first. With Kevin driving, the three of them soon arrived at the Jones family's mansion. By now, there were dozens of cars parked outside the mansion. At a glance, they were all makes and models of high-end cars. It was like a luxury car show. Dorothy was wearing a long peacock green dress with an apricot-colored cape. She looked very sexy and elegant as she walked. Her clear, smooth face looked radiant as she walked with her daughter Lily. You couldn't tell at all that they were mother and daughter. Instead, they looked more like sisters. So when the two of them walked into the Jones family's hall, they instantly attracted everyone's attention. Many relatives and friends who knew Dorothy and her daughter stepped up to greet the two of them. Kevin, who was following behind them, was ignored by most people as usual. However, there were some people who liked to pay more attention to Kevin. For example, there was Jason. If he didn't cause trouble for Kevin every time he saw him, it wouldn't be normal. Jason mocked him. "Hey, isn't this Kevin? It's rare to see him dressed like a human. I almost didn't recognize you." Jason walked to Kevin's side and patted him on the shoulder. His voice was so loud that almost everyone in the hall could hear him. Kevin looked at him with a smile and didn't say anything. Jason snorted in disdain. "You got these clothes on sale, right? I remember I saw the exact clothing down at the mall. Was it $75 or $100? Quality stuff, right?" Hearing this, many people looked at Kevin with scorn. Some even laughed out loud. Lily looked at Kevin with an embarrassed expression on her face. She was definitely angry. To think that she had given him $1,000 to buy himself some decent clothes. He, on the other hand, he actually went and bought a cheap suit for $100. Why did he always make things so difficult for her? Kevin adjusted his collar and responded casually. "I'm really disappointed to hear that. Actually, I didn't pay for my clothes." Jason laughed. "You didn't pay for it? Could it be that the owner of the store saw that you were too pathetic and out of pity gave you a new suit?" The people around them started laughing as well. They looked at Kevin like he was a fool. Lily and Dorothy's faces showed their embarrassment. Dorothy coldly snorted and began to walk away. She didn't want to stand anywhere near Kevin, her stupid son-in-law, for another second. "We should go sit down," Lily disappointingly whispered to Kevin. She really didn't want to bring Kevin along to these events. However, unless someone was out of town or dealing with some special circumstances, all the family members had to attend. "Lily, I'm really not talking about you. It's fine if your husband lacks experience and is stingy. Aren't you willing to spend a little money on yourself? The dress you're wearing must have cost around $500, didn't it? It's shameful that you have the nerve to wear it to our family get-together." Jason looked Lily up and down. The smile on his face made her feel very annoyed. Seeing that everyone was paying attention to them, Jason straightened up and patted the suit he was wearing. There was arrogance in his expression. "In order to attend the family gathering, I went to the most famous designer in the country and spent $20,000 to have this suit made especially for me." Wow, $20,000? Everyone thought. Almost everyone in the room was shocked. After all, even though their finances were pretty solid, spending $20,000 for a suit was really too extravagant. Feeling the envious gazes from the people around him, Jason was extremely proud of himself. The way he looked at Lily showed even more disdain. Lily's face turned red. She was both angry and embarrassed. Jason had deliberately made her embarrassed in front of all these people. He really just wanted to see her make a fool of herself. But there was nothing Lily could do. When she glanced over at Kevin, who still had a smile on his face, she felt even more choked up. Kevin noticed Lily's eyes and turned his head to smile at her. After a moment, she quickly turned her head away. Kevin raised his eyebrows and looked at Jason, who had a smug look on his face. Kevin imitated Jason by patting him back on his shoulder.
"What are you doing? Who asked you to touch me?"
Jason almost jumped, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He angrily slapped Kevin's hand away and quickly brushed off his shoulder. It was as if he was afraid that his clothes would be contaminated with some kind of bacteria by Kevin's touch. Kevin didn't care at all as he put his hand into his pocket and returned Jason's disgusted gaze. He sneered and said, "It's only a $20,000 suit. I was afraid that it would soil my hands. My Lily likes to dress casually. However, she really prefers fine jewelry." After saying this, Kevin pulled a stunned Lily to his side. Now that Kevin had put Jason in his place, he looked around and then looked directly at him. "Didn't you see the dream lover on Lily's neck? It's worth 100 of your fancy suits." Everyone's gaze shifted to Lily. To be precise, they were all staring at Lily's neck. Following Kevin's rebuke, the entire audience suddenly fell silent, so quiet that all you could hear was the delicate piano music in the background. The crowd exploded with questions and comments. One relative said,
"Or am I seeing things? Is she actually wearing a dream lover?"
Another said, "Heavens, that's really a dream lover. There are only 10 of them in the world. It's a woman's dream." All the women present were excited. Even most of the men were shocked. There were a few people there who had never heard of the dream lover necklace, but now they were well aware of it. Everyone looked at her in amazement. For a moment, Lily became the most eye-catching woman in the entire hall. Countless envious gazes fell on her body, which definitely was a boost to her ego. Lily unconsciously shifted her attention to Kevin, who was standing at her side. He seemed somewhat different tonight, she thought. Jason stared at the necklace on Lily's neck and lied.
"I think you're just trying to trick everyone. That's no dream lover. Where did your family get enough money to buy such a rare piece of jewelry? I think you're just wearing a fake."
Kevin snapped back. "It's none of your business how much money we have. We don't answer to you." Dorothy walked over and called to her son-in-law. "Kevin." After giving Kevin a warning look, Dorothy smiled and stepped in front of Jason. "Jason, Kevin is younger than you, so he doesn't know how to bite his tongue. Why are you arguing with him anyway? And where are your parents? Why didn't I see them come today?" Dorothy wanted to change the topic to give everyone a diplomatic way out, but Jason's heart was burning with anger. How could he let Kevin get to him so easily?
"My parents are overseas on company business. They aren't lazy like you. You don't have anything to do all day long, do you? You have your little son-in-law to wait on you hand and foot, and you don't even need to babysit him."
Jason's words made Dorothy extremely embarrassed. At that moment, a mature older voice interrupted them. "What in heaven's name is everyone doing here?"
"Grandma!"
Jason's face lit up. He turned around and saw that someone was supporting the family matriarch, Mrs. Victoria Jones, as she slowly walked over. He practically ran to her. Mrs. Jones, or Grandma Jones as everyone called her, looked at her favorite grandson. Her wrinkled face broke into a kind, warm smile. But when she saw Kevin standing beside Lily, her smile vanished. Kevin knew that Grandma Jones had always disliked him, but he didn't really care. "All right, since everyone is almost here, we can all take a seat," Grandma Jones said as she looked at the crowd of relatives. After she had finished speaking, she took Jason by the hand and walked towards the main table. After everyone took a seat, Grandma Jones said a few pleasant words and encouraged everyone to work hard for the family. Then the banquet began. Kevin looked at the table full of exquisite food. Boy, was he hungry. Once he heard the banquet was starting, he dug in. He really didn't care if he grossed out the other people at the table. Lily and Dorothy stared at him a few times, but Kevin pretended not to see. After all, it was just a meal, and he would eat however he wanted. And his table manners weren't that bad. He just ate a little fast. At the main table, Grandma Jones spoke again. "Before the banquet, I heard from a reliable source that the CEO of Williams Media has changed. I was told that he is a young man about the same age as JJ. She looked lovingly at her grandson Jason. "The new CEO will be officially appointed tomorrow." As soon as her voice faded, everyone there started chattering about this unexpected news. They had so many questions. Why did Williams Media suddenly change their CEO? This was unheard of. But everyone knew that this was a great opportunity. For years, the Jones family had controlled several small media and advertising companies. They all wanted to work with Williams Media. Because Williams Media was so powerful, as long as the Jones family could reach an agreement with them, it was safe to say that the Jones family could rise to a whole new level. But they had already sent countless people to seek a partnership with Williams. Their offers had all been harshly rejected. After all, Williams Media was run by the Williams family, one of the most prestigious families in the city. It was normal for them to look down on the tiny little Jones family. But now that they were changing their CEO and such a young man, there might be a slight possibility to join forces with them. Naturally, the Jones family wouldn't pass up such a golden opportunity. They just had to give it a try. When Kevin, who was busy with his meal, heard the news about Williams Media, he raised his head. There was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Grandma Jones was pretty well informed. Grandma Jones watched everyone's reaction with a great big smile on her face. She slowly opened her mouth and asked them, "Does anyone have an idea of how to pay a visit to the new Williams Media CEO? If anyone can form a partnership between our families, I will reward them well." "I'm willing to go," said one of them. Another shouted out, "Grandma, I want to go." And yet another said excitedly, "Let me go. I'm the best one here at teamwork." Lily wanted desperately to speak up so that she could play a part in all of this. But when she thought of her low-ranking position in the Jones family, she ended up sitting quietly, waiting to see what would happen. One after another, the family members shared their opinions. Grandma Jones nodded her head in satisfaction. Finally, she set her eyes on Jason, who was sitting beside her with an eager look on his face. Patting Jason's hand, she said, "JJ, I will leave this matter up to you. Don't let me down." "Don't worry, Grandma. I'll definitely get them to make a deal." Jason smacked his chest confidently. Kevin put down his fork and picked up a napkin to wipe his mouth. He looked over at Jason, who was now standing in front of Grandma Jones, and he couldn't help laughing to himself. He wanted to make a deal? What gave him such confidence? Jason didn't know that he had already deeply offended the new head of Williams Media. And he still wanted to talk about cooperating with Williams Media. Kevin thought to himself with a slight chuckle. After the gathering was over, Kevin took Lily and Dorothy home. As they drove along, Lily didn't pay any attention to what Kevin was saying. She was preoccupied with what Grandma Jones had just said about forming a partnership with Williams Media. What will I do? Lily wondered. On their way home from the family get-together, Lily thought about her own dreams. If only she could get a chance to talk with Williams Media about forming an alliance. As long as the partnership turned out to be successful, her own company, Siren Corporation, would be saved. If Lily couldn't get any more financial aid, she had to ask Bradley Smith for help. However, she thought he'd just bought the extravagant Dream Lover necklace and given it to her. She didn't know if he still had enough funds on hand to help her company. The more Lily thought about it, the more irritated she became. When Kevin noticed Lily frowning, he could easily guess why she was upset, but he didn't say a word. When Kevin was ready to go to sleep that night, he hopped up on his bed. He lay there and looked at his wife, who was just about to lie down in her own bed, and said thoughtfully, "Lily, don't worry. Jason Jones definitely won't be able to talk with Williams Media tomorrow about making any deal. Aside from you, no one else can succeed." After he'd said this, he didn't care how Lily would react. Kevin yawned, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. Lily was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Kevin to actually read her mind, but what he said really left her speechless. She wasn't entirely sure he was right, that if she went to talk with Williams Media about the partnership, it would definitely succeed. How could he be so sure that this couldn't be done by anyone other than her? He sure didn't know how to comfort someone. Rolling her eyes, Lily turned off the light. She put the whole thing out of her mind and went to sleep. Early the next morning after Lily left for work, Kevin also headed out. Uncle Thomas gave him a call early in the morning and told him that Miss Sandra Wilson, his new chief of staff, was ready and that everyone was waiting for him to take office. So Kevin slowly rode his brand new electric scooter all the way to Williams Media. Williams Media was located in the fanciest part of downtown Chicago. It was in a majestic 50-story office building that was taller than all the surrounding buildings. The building's parking garage was filled with all kinds of luxury cars, sports cars, and high-end SUVs. Lots of them were electric. Without exception, all of these cars belonged to Williams Media executives and the celebrity superstars that they managed. There was a reason why Williams Media was known as an industry leader in entertainment. They managed their artists very closely and saw them regularly. So the lot was always filled with luxury cars. Looking at all the fancy rides, Kevin thought that it seemed unusual for a CEO like him to ride an electric scooter to work. Just as Kevin was about to park his scooter in a small space at the edge of the lot, a red Ferrari suddenly appeared out of nowhere. What? Kevin screamed as he quickly leapt off his scooter. He must have jumped nearly 6 feet away. He turned around and saw that there was a small dent in the front of the Ferrari, along with a long scratch in the paint. His electric scooter had been hit hard, and the rear wheel was bent out of shape. This was the electric scooter that he had just bought yesterday. Sadly, Kevin walked over to his scooter, which was now lying on the ground. Just as he was about to say something, the door of the Ferrari opened and a slender white leg emerged. "Why don't you watch where you're going?" the driver said. The woman's tone was harsh. When she was completely out of the car, the bystander suddenly gasped. "She's so beautiful. Who is this big star?" they said. The willowy beauty wore a tight blue skirt that showed off her figure. Her high heels made her legs look even more attractive. Kevin looked at this beautiful woman in front of him, and he couldn't hide his excitement. Brittany! He hadn't expected to meet her here today. Could it be that she was here to sign a contract with Williams Media? That was quite a coincidence. Although his electric scooter was wrecked, Kevin wasn't injured. Brittany was a new performer who was about to sign a contract with his company, so naturally he wasn't going to argue with her. Brittany recognized Kevin. She frowned and asked, "Kevin, what are you doing here?" She looked at him and then looked at the electric scooter on the ground. She remembered that 2 nights ago she heard someone mention that the security guard at Williams Media suddenly had a heart attack and was sent to the hospital. So the company hired a young man as a security guard. Could it be Kevin? "Why don't you watch what you're doing? Look at all the damage to my car. I'm sure you can't afford to fix it." Brittany looked at the dents and scratches on the front of the Ferrari and felt her heart sink. This was her brand new car. It had now been trashed the first time she drove it. Hearing this, Kevin immediately furrowed his brow. "It was clearly you who hit me. Why are you blaming me instead?" At the moment, a deep male voice came from nearby. "What happened here?" The onlooker stepped out of the way and Kevin saw a man in a blue suit walking over with 2 security guards. When Victor Martin saw the scene in front of him, he was instantly stunned by Brittany's beauty. He stepped forward and said with a smile, "You're Brittany Davis, aren't you? A few days ago, I heard that you'd be coming in to sign your contract. I didn't expect you to be here yet." Brittany gave him a faint smile. Now she looked gentle and polite, completely different from a minute ago when she was chastising Kevin. "I'm sorry," she said. "This happened as I was coming in. What can you do about it?" On hearing this, Mr. Martin instantly felt more self-assured and cocky. He had to help Brittany right away. He said, "Don't worry. This is just a small matter." Looking at Kevin, the man said with a serious face, "Do you know where you are? Who said you could ride an electric bike here?" Kevin looked around and said, "Who says I can't ride an electric bike in here? Besides, she's the one who hit me. Can't you figure that out?" "If I say you can't ride here, then you can't ride here. Why would someone in a Ferrari hit someone on a scooter?" While the man spoke, he pointed at Kevin with a disdainful expression. Kevin looked at the man, and his good mood was ruined. Brittany's mouth trembled as she complained, "Mr. Martin, is he the new guard you just hired? I'm afraid he'll annoy a lot of people." When Victor Martin heard Brittany's words, he suddenly remembered that the old guard had suddenly left yesterday. He was told that the new guard would come to work today. He looked at Kevin, who was wearing a baggy t-shirt and shorts, and then looked at the electric scooter lying on the ground. He was sure that Kevin was the new security guard. "I definitely won't allow someone like this to continue working here. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll fire him right now." After he finished speaking, he pointed at Kevin and said, "You're fired. Please pack up your things and leave." Kevin still had a scowl on his face. He read the nameplate on the man's chest. His title was Victor Martin, Production Assistant. What was the company structure like at Williams Media anyway? A production assistant could fire another employee at will? He replied, "You want to fire me, Assistant Victor Martin, right? I would like to ask you a simple question. Who gave you the right to fire someone all by yourself?" Kevin looked at the man with a smile, not caring what the people around him thought. Kevin's question made Mr. Martin's face harden. He didn't really have the right to fire anyone he wanted. After all, he was just a production assistant. He glared at Kevin angrily. He was about to curse at him when he was interrupted by Brittany. "You said Mr. Martin isn't qualified to fire you, right? Then the department manager should be qualified. You just wait." Brittany looked at Kevin with disgust. After she finished speaking, she took out her phone, wrote 2 text messages, and sent them out. In less than 5 minutes, a woman wearing a gray professional suit walked up to them with a cold, bitter expression on her face. Lily was still in shock after being nominated by Jason to represent the Jones family in their negotiations with Williams Media. She was at a loss for words. After Jason finished speaking, he walked over and stood in front of Grandma Jones. "I think Lily is really suitable. What do you think, Grandma?" In Grandma Jones's heart, Jason was the one that she liked the most, so she naturally took his suggestion more seriously than the others. She reflected for a while and nodded in agreement. Then she looked at Lily and smiled. "Lily, you will go to Williams Media tomorrow. Do your best, and above all, don't let me down." "Grandma, Lily was struggling to come up with a way to get out of this, but she saw Grandma Jones wave her hand dismissively and say, "Okay, today's meeting is adjourned. Do whatever you need to handle this. Don't accept no for an answer. Your family needs you." No one cared about Lily's feelings or what she wanted to say. Once the meeting was over, everyone filed out. Lily bit her lip as she watched Jason leave the room with a big smile on his face. She angrily stomped her feet and walked out of the Jones mansion, wondering what she would do next. Lily was confused. When she returned home, the more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. In the eyes of everyone in the Jones family, this was an impossible task. But now this hopeless task fell on her. She had no idea how she would approach the new CEO of Williams Media to talk about working together with her family. The more Lily thought about it, the more irritated she became. Finally, Lily decided to call Rachel and ask her to come over to keep her company. She also wanted to know if her friend had any good suggestions. After Rachel came over and the two of them chatted for a while, Lily felt a little less freaked out. Rachel got up and walked to the fridge. She took a can of soda and asked Lily as she drank, "Why isn't Kevin at home today?" Lily smiled helplessly. "When I left early this morning, he was already gone. I don't know where he went, but he still hasn't come back." Rachel curled her lips in disgust as she sat on the sofa. She leaned closer to Lily and said, "I really admire you. You haven't thought of getting a divorce after these 2 awful years?" Lily only sighed and didn't say anything, but Rachel pressed it further. "You should also think about yourself. Kevin is holding you back. Your parents want you to have a child, but you still haven't been able to get pregnant after 2 whole years. Plus, your company still owes you so much money. If you find a rich and powerful husband, your life won't be so hard. It's pointless for you to say all this now. We're already married. What are you getting at?" "Those who get married can get a divorce," Rachel said indifferently. Lily shook her head and smiled. She didn't say anything else about it. After a few minutes, they heard someone at the door. The 2 women looked up at the same time and saw Kevin whistling as he walked in. With a contemptuous, mocking smile on her face, Rachel watched Kevin walk closer to them. As usual, Kevin was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. He looked like such a loser. Kevin naturally saw Rachel's disdain for him, but he didn't care. He strode up to Lily and sat on the sofa with a smile. He looked at her and said, "Lily, your company still needs $4 million, right?" Lily didn't even bother to look at him. She picked up an emery board and started to do her nails. "Why are you asking this?" "How dare you try to rub it in? Why do you always say things that make Lily unhappy? Are you afraid that her life will be too easy?" Rachel sat up straight and stared at Kevin. Lily sighed and gave Rachel a penetrating look that told her not to criticize Kevin anymore. After all, during the Joneses family quarterly meeting, when Jason embarrassed her in front of so many people, it was Kevin who helped Lily. Now she naturally didn't want Rachel to keep picking on him like this. Kevin turned his head and looked at Rachel. He smiled mysteriously and said, "I hope you haven't forgotten what I said 2 days ago. If I can find $4 million to help Lily get through this crisis, you should call me boss." When she heard him bring this up, Rachel instantly laughed. "I sure did say that. And if you can't find her $4 million, how about you call me boss? I've never seen someone as helpless as you who still likes to put on airs." Kevin sneered. He took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to Lily. "Lily, I originally wanted to bring you cash, but it was too much to carry around. This card has $4 million on it. Take it." Lily took the card in a daze and didn't know how to react. Rachel laughed again. She felt that Kevin was acting like a fool again. "I can't believe you're still carrying on with this lie. I'm dying of laughter." "Who's the boss?" Kevin asked quickly. "It's not you." After saying this, Rachel realized that she had been tricked. Her face immediately turned red and she glared at Kevin. Kevin chuckled and looked at Lily, who obviously didn't believe him and was about to toss the card in the trash. "Lily, do you still have that card reader you use at work? Why don't you log in and check the balance of the account? I wouldn't lie to you." Lily held the card in her hand and looked into Kevin's eyes. She had her doubts. But she also wanted to believe him, even though he didn't have a job. After all, he still relied on her to support him. Now he hands her a card and says that there are $4 million on it. Anyone would find his words hard to believe. "Lily, since he asked you to try, you should try. He asked for it. I'm still waiting to hear him call me boss." Rachel crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Kevin with a sneer. Lily tightened her grip on the bank card and looked at Kevin, who was waiting expectantly. "Kevin, you really want me to check it out?" "Don't worry. I would never lie to you." Kevin gave her a determined look. Lily nodded and said, "Okay." Then she got up and walked to the study and turned on the card reader. "The password is your birthday," Kevin reminded her in a low voice. Lily looked up at him and then entered the password. After a moment, the card's balance appeared on the screen. $4 million. Lily was dumbfounded. When Rachel came over and saw the long string of numbers, she stared open-mouthed at the screen. "How is this possible?" she asked. As soon as Dorothy Jones entered the house, she saw that something was up. She frowned and walked over to Lily, Kevin, and Rachel in the study. "What's going on?" When her gaze fell on the ridiculously high number on the card reader, she was absolutely stunned. "Where did you get so much money from?" Lily looked up at her mother and then looked at Kevin. She pursed her lips and replied, "Kevin gave me the card." "What? Kevin gave it to you?" Dorothy Jones looked at Kevin in disbelief. "Where did you get so much money?" Kevin smiled and shook his finger at her playfully. "I can't tell you, so please don't ask, but I can assure you that this money came from an honest source. Lily, just use it and don't worry." Then he turned to look at Rachel. He scratched his ear and said, "I believe you said you wanted to start calling me boss. You can start. I'm waiting." Rachel stared at him in wide-eyed disbelief. She was really flustered, and she raised a scolding finger toward Kevin. She was tempted to berate him again. Before Rachel did something rash, Lily quickly took the card in the reader and pulled Kevin into the bedroom. "We are the only ones in this room now. Kevin, tell me the truth. Where did you get this money from?" Lily asked softly. She locked the door behind her and walked slowly up to Kevin. He looked at her guardedly, but he was secretly delighted. Lily was concerned about him, wasn't she? He thought for a moment, smiled, and asked her gently, "If I told you I'm actually an incredibly wealthy business executive and that this money is a drop in the bucket for me, would you believe me?" Lily frowned at him and pulled away. "Don't joke around. Forget it. If you really don't want to tell me, I don't want to keep asking you. Anyway, you have to promise me that this isn't dirty money. I hope that you're not involved in anything illegal. Otherwise, I would rather see my company go bankrupt than to take a dime from you." Kevin sighed when he heard her say this. "Don't worry. I guarantee that the money is legal. You just need to use it quickly to save your company." Lily had her doubts, but he was so convincing. She thought for a long moment before putting the card away. As she did this, she said, "Okay, I believe you. You can rest assured, too. I will definitely pay you back as soon as possible. It may take some time, but I'll repay you." "My money is your money." Kevin waved his hand nonchalantly and walked out of the room. When he got to the living room, he saw that Rachel had already left. "She ran away before she called me boss," he figured. Later, Dorothy was also wondering where Kevin had gotten the $4 million, and Lily pulled her aside. She spoke to her mother very quietly and seemed to calm her fears. Afterward, Dorothy's attitude towards Kevin was a little gentler than before. Recently, Chicago had been in financial turmoil, and as the leading company in Chicago, Williams Media had suddenly taken on a young new CEO. Just when countless companies in the entertainment industry were dying to work with them, Williams Media was rejecting all of them. They even turned away the larger companies that they had always done business with. It made sense that the ones who were able to join forces with Williams Media had to be tied to a wealthy Chicago family or a large company. But this time, what shocked everyone was that they were partnering with a relatively unknown family, the Jones family. Many people had never heard of Lily before, but she had actually managed to come to an agreement with Williams Media. In Chicago, the Jones family was only considered to be a third-rate family, and Lily was only from a minor branch of the Jones family tree. In the upper crust, most people didn't even know that she existed. Some people also heard that Jason had approached Williams Media to discuss a partnership, but was rejected. This was even more confusing. Even the great Jason was chased away. How did Lily, this unimportant member of the Jones family, manage to get her foot in the door with Williams Media? What was the new Williams Media CEO thinking? Why did he choose to work with the insignificant little Jones family instead of so many powerful companies? Lily herself couldn't figure it out. No one would believe her. On the day when she went to discuss the partnership, she didn't get to see the CEO. All she had to do was sign the contract. Everything went over so smoothly, making her feel like she was dreaming. The Jones family had booked the entire banquet hall of the very luxurious Whistler Hotel in Chicago for that evening. Grandma Jones brought everyone together to celebrate Lily's success in sealing a deal between the Jones family and Williams Media. Everyone in the Jones family accepted Grandma Jones's request to attend the celebration banquet. On top of that, Grandma Jones had invited a lot of famous people in the Chicago area to attend their bash. There was only one goal, and that was to let everyone know that the Jones family had formed a partnership with Williams Media. In the future, the family would definitely have a chance to become one of the top families in the Windy City, as some people referred to their town. Lily had become the most noteworthy guest in the banquet hall. This was mainly because she had done so much for the Jones family, so she was the most important invitee of the celebration. Kevin followed behind Lily, who was dressed ever so elegantly. Just as he was about to take a seat, he heard a cold rebuke from someone beside him. "Please find another seat. This one is reserved for Miss Phoebe Anderson." Of course, it was Jason speaking. Behind him stood a beautiful young lady wearing an elegant silk dress that fit her very snugly from its low slit up to its high neckline. Kevin casually glanced up at her, looked away, then turned back again to get another look. He felt that this woman seemed somewhat familiar. He thought he'd seen her somewhere before. Jason saw that Kevin hadn't moved and was still staring at Phoebe. He took a step forward and deliberately bumped into him. "Didn't you hear me? This seat is reserved for Miss Anderson." Kevin wasn't prepared for this kind of physical aggression. He was a little shaken, but he still didn't leave his seat. He saw that Jason was trying to please Phoebe, but the young woman's face remained cold. Kevin raised his eyebrows. "Miss Anderson?" Kevin replied with a questioning tone. Jason glanced at Kevin out of the corner of his eye. He got more impatient. "You don't even know who Phoebe Anderson is?" A lot of people around them had noticed what was going on. Lily, who was nearby, had an embarrassed look on her face. She was very annoyed with Jason. Again. Lily had already noticed that Phoebe was sitting at another table. It was Jason who deliberately arranged to find a new seat for her. And Lily was certain that he must have done this to get even for her success with Williams Media. Jason was deeply jealous of her, and he had deliberately bullied Kevin just to embarrass her. Kevin remained in his seat, but when he looked over at Lily, he saw the pained expression on her face. In a concerned tone, he asked her, "What's wrong, Lily? Are you feeling okay?" Lily shook her head no. She was considering letting Kevin give up his seat. It was better to avoid any unnecessary conflict, which was sure to follow because Grandma Jones liked Jason the most. Dorothy Jones, who was also nearby this awkward scene, didn't say anything, but she kept motioning to Kevin that she wanted him to take the initiative and give Phoebe his seat. Phoebe was a distinguished guest invited by Grandma Jones. The Anderson family was one of the most prestigious families in Chicago. They had made billions in the global jewelry market and literally had countless assets. How could this squabble be resolved without insulting such an honored guest and her family, and without upsetting Grandma Jones? Kevin waited patiently by his wrecked scooter to see what would happen. Brittany was still angry about her dented Ferrari and had texted her contacts at Williams Media for help. The mature, stunning woman who came to her rescue looked to be about 40 years old. Her professional attire gave her an air of experience and charm. She was Claire Davis, the manager of Williams Media's publicity department. She was also Brittany's aunt. It was thanks to her that Brittany had gotten the chance to sign a contract with Williams Media. "Auntie!" Brittany called out like a spoiled child. She then walked to her aunt's side and held her arm as she whispered a few words into her ear. When Victor Martin, the other Williams Media employees, and the two security guards saw Claire, they immediately greeted her with smiling faces. "Miss Davis, good morning." Claire Davis politely returned their greetings with a casual, "Good morning." Then she turned her attention to Kevin and said sternly, "Did you hit her car? Apologize to her right now, or we will call the police and ask them to handle this matter." Hearing her threat, Kevin let out a laugh. "I don't know you. Why should I listen to you? If you want to call the police, go ahead. Anyway, I didn't crash into her. She crashed into me. So what am I afraid of?" One of the bystanders said, "He doesn't even know the publicity manager. He really should be fired." "Just wait. Miss Davis will definitely fire him," another Williams Media employee added. Seeing Kevin's nonchalant look, Claire's expression became even colder. She raised her hand, pointed right at Kevin, and said, "You're the new security guard, aren't you? I'll tell you right now, you've been fired. Get out of here or I'll call the police and they'll take you down to the police station." "Ha! Send me to the police station?" Kevin raised his eyebrows and pointed at himself. Brittany sneered. "Don't you understand English? Just my luck to see you today. I'll bet you can't even afford to fix my car. I won't argue with you anymore. Just hurry up and get out of here." Kevin smirked and didn't say anything. Just when Claire was about to scold him some more, they were all startled by the sound of a car horn. A brand new Lamborghini pulled up and stopped in front of everyone. They saw a beautiful young woman in a wine-red professional ensemble. She adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses and stepped out of the car. She went straight to Kevin, shook his hand, and greeted him with a warm smile. "Sorry, sir. I went to get the company's new quarterly reports for you, but I lost track of the time. I hope you can forgive me." At a glance, Kevin already knew that this was Miss Wilson, the chief of staff that his uncle had told him about. Miss Wilson straightened her back and looked at the young man in front of her nervously. She explained again, "I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't expect the expressway to be so backed up. This isn't how I wanted to greet our new CEO. It won't happen again." Everyone was stunned. What was going on? CEO? Claire definitely knew who Miss Wilson was. When she saw her showing so much respect towards Kevin, she was enraged. Claire grabbed Miss Wilson's arm and said angrily, "Miss Wilson, you're making a huge mistake. This is the new company security guard. What's wrong with you?" Miss Wilson frowned and pulled her arm away. She took her phone and a stack of documents out of her bag. "I assure you that I'm not mistaken. These are the documents that our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Thomas Williams, personally gave me regarding our new CEO. This photo looks quite a lot like this gentleman, doesn't it?" Brittany, who was standing to the side, rushed over and looked at the photo on Miss Wilson's phone. It sure looked a lot like Kevin, but the man in the photo had a much more professional appearance. He also looked a lot younger and more handsome. "Miss Wilson, you must be wrong. This is Kevin Williams, my former classmate. Look at his sloppy appearance. How could he possibly be the CEO of Williams Media? Maybe he just looks a lot like him." Brittany pointed at Kevin's clothes with a look of utter disdain. They were all confused. How could the new CEO show up to the office wearing a t-shirt and baggy shorts, riding a tiny, broken electric scooter? Miss Wilson pushed up her glasses and her expression remained very calm. "That sounds right. The information our CEO gave me says that the new president's name is Kevin. And this photo was actually taken 3 years ago, so of course he looks a little older now." Miss Wilson flipped open the documents and Brittany and Claire immediately went over to look at them. When they saw the name Kevin written conspicuously on the front page, it was like they'd been struck by lightning. Claire Davis pretended to be calm and quickly flipped through the pages. As she read, her face got paler and paler. When she'd finished scanning them, she came to the realization that the young man in scruffy clothes standing in front of her was, in fact, their new CEO. Claire looked up at Kevin in disbelief, but when she saw the scorn in Kevin's eyes, she looked back down at her feet. What had she just done? She was an executive, the company's publicity manager. But in front of all these people, she had been shouting that she wanted to fire the new CEO and that she wanted to have him arrested. For a moment, Claire struggled to speak. She gritted her teeth, carefully stepped forward, and forced a smile. She said, Sir, I'm really sorry. We've made a huge mistake. Nothing like this will ever happen again in the future." "There will be a future?" Kevin looked at her out of the corner of his eye. Claire's face froze and she stuttered. "Please don't do this. I know what I did was wrong. Sir, will you please give me another chance?" Ignoring the puzzled looks from everyone around her, what Claire cared about the most right now was to protect her job and her position. Brittany, who was standing off to the side, also hurried to stand near Kevin. Her expression no longer looked so arrogant. "Mr. Williams, it's all my fault. Don't be angry. Please accept my apologies." Kevin looked at her with an enigmatic smile. He didn't say a word. Brittany's voice became softer and softer as he looked at her. Finally, she couldn't bear to look him in the eyes. Kevin glanced at the time on his watch. He had no intention of continuing to waste time at the door. After thinking for a while, he looked at Miss Wilson and pointed toward Victor Martin, who was trying desperately not to be noticed. "This man tried to fire me to protect the image of Williams Media." After saying this, he motioned towards Miss Wilson, and they both turned and headed towards the grand entrance to the Williams Media head office. Claire, Brittany, and the others quickly followed. Only Victor Martin, who had tears streaming down his face, was left behind. He looked sadly at the group as they walked away from him. As soon as he entered the elegant entry hall of Williams Media, Kevin let out a deep sigh. Williams Media was truly worthy of being the #1 entertainment company in Chicago. The company's ambiance, its lavish details and luxurious decor, everything about it just oozed success. Ever since he was expelled by the Williams family, Kevin had not set foot in such an opulent place in a long time. It could best be described as exquisite, from its world-class design to its perfectly chosen color scheme. And this wasn't limited to the entry hall. The overall style of Williams Media's headquarters was truly stunning. The news of the new CEO taking office today had already spread throughout the entire company. Everyone who saw Kevin smiled and greeted him, wanting to make a good first impression on the new CEO. Of course, many people were surprised when they first saw Kevin, but none of them showed it. His simple, unpretentious appearance seemed to contrast with his new surroundings. He took the elevator to the 18th floor, where his office was located. After entering the office, Kevin sat on the big leather chair and looked at Claire and Brittany, who had entered the room with him. "Do you have anything else to talk to me about?" He flipped open some of the folders on his enormous desk and asked casually as he looked at the contents of the folders. Brittany and Claire looked at each other, and Claire gave her niece a slight smile to comfort her. She took 2 steps forward and said, "Sir, about what happened today, I'm really very sorry. Now, about the matter of Brittany signing her contract." Claire paused before finishing her sentence. Kevin didn't even raise his head as he chuckled to himself. "Sign the contract?" he asked. Brittany smiled awkwardly as she replied, "Mr. Williams, did you forget that I came here today to sign my contract?" She bit her lower lip and looked at Kevin uncertainly. Kevin put down the folder that he'd been reviewing and leaned back in his very comfortable leather chair. "This chair is really nice," he thought to himself. He smiled at the two of them but didn't answer them right away. Seeing Kevin's reaction, Claire wasn't sure what to think. "Sir, how about this? I can accept any punishment you give me, but please don't cancel Brittany's contract, okay?" Kevin laughed out loud. "It's funny, but someone who didn't know me well might think I'm a bully." Claire instantly blushed. Just as Claire was about to say something else, there was a knock on the CEO's office door. Miss Wilson walked over to the door and whispered a few words to someone outside. Then she closed the door and came to Kevin's side. "Sir, Jason Jones, the Jones family representative, is here. He said he wants to discuss the company's financial future with you." As soon as Miss Wilson finished speaking, Kevin got a stern look on his face. He was very unhappy to hear Jason Jones's name. "Get that fool out of my office immediately. And please inform the Jones family that if they want to cooperate with us, they shouldn't let that bonehead show his face around here. They can try again with a new representative. As long as I approve of the new rep, I'll have no problem negotiating with them." Meanwhile, Jason was waiting outside Kevin's office, fantasizing about the new sports car Grandma Jones would surely give him for setting up this deal. But he was shocked when Miss Wilson passed along the CEO's message. As he watched Miss Wilson turn around to leave, Jason was stunned for a moment before he realized what had just happened. "That bastard!" As soon as he swore, everyone in the hall turned to look at him. Jason realized that he was still in Williams Media territory. He immediately stopped talking and left the building while holding back the anger that was welling up inside him. At the Jones family mansion, Grandma Jones reacted by calling everyone over for an emergency family meeting. Seeing that all the members of the family had arrived, Grandma Jones let out a sigh and said, "JJ went to discuss the deal with Williams Media, but he didn't succeed. I think some of you already know about it." Jason added, "Grandma, Williams Media obviously thinks they're better than us. They actually called me a fool. On top of that, they told me to get out and never show my face again." Jason's face was turning red from anger. Grandma Jones, who was sitting next to him, was obviously distressed. When the rest of the family heard this, they immediately started discussing amongst themselves. They were smart people, so they understood right away what had happened. Williams Media was the biggest entertainment company in Chicago, and they had told Jason to scram. Jason didn't dare to fight them head on. All he could do was run home and throw a tantrum. Even Grandma Jones didn't dare to ask Williams Media to explain themselves. She said to her grandson, "I'm sorry you have to suffer for this, JJ." Grandma Jones's heart ached the most for Jason. Seeing how upset he was, she patted his arm and comforted him. "The new CEO of Williams Media is a young man in his early 20s. That's a very young age for someone to take the helm of such a powerful corporation. Naturally, he has his pride, and it's normal that he doesn't like small families like ours." Grandma Jones paused for a moment and looked around the room. But the CEO of Williams Media also said that as long as the candidate is satisfactory, he won't have any problem working with them. So I want to ask everyone, who do you think is most suitable to represent us in these negotiations? The people in the room stopped talking and looked at each other. It was unusually quiet. Williams Media had already told Jason Jones to get lost. After that, who would have the nerve to go back in there? Grandma Jones was disappointed when nobody stepped up to volunteer. What? No one is willing to go? She asked them. While everyone else remained silent, Jason suddenly had what he thought was a particularly nasty idea. He stood up and said loudly, Grandma, I think Lily is the ideal choice to talk with Williams Media about our offer. Jason's words suddenly made Lily the center of attention. She threw an angry look at Jason, who was standing beside Grandma, smiling maliciously. While she knew that Jason always liked to cause trouble, she didn't expect him to be so shameless as to involve her in this mess. Lily tried to speak but only managed to stammer, But Grandma, Lily was angry, but at the same time she was trying to figure out how to get out of this horrible predicament. She was about to finish her thought when Jason interrupted her again. Lily, Grandma just wants to give you a chance to help the family. Don't you care about our family? Seeing the distraught look on Lily's face, Jason smiled. He continued, I know that your Siren Corporation just lost millions. You still seem to be short $4 or $5 million in capital, right? I'm doing this for your own good. If you're willing to help all of us, the Jones family, and if the deal is successful, Grandma won't let your company go bankrupt. What choice did Lily have? Lily was very worried that this whole argument with Jason about Phoebe's seat at the banquet would blow up and get her in trouble with the family. As the eldest daughter of the Anderson family, Phoebe was in the spotlight wherever she went. Dorothy Jones knew very well what kind of influence someone like her would have on Grandma Jones. And if Kevin offended Phoebe in any way, that would definitely have a negative impact on Lily. However, Kevin only cared about Lily and didn't even notice the look that Dorothy was giving him. Actually, he noticed, but didn't want to do anything about it. Finally, Jason exploded. Don't you understand English? I've already told you 10 times to give up your seat. What's wrong with you? Just move so Miss Anderson can have a seat. Phoebe scowled and looked impatiently at Jason. Then her cool gaze fell on Kevin. Seeing Grandma Jones also look over at them, Lily was worried about the impression that all this would make on the family matriarch. This would definitely tarnish Lily's image. She turned her head to look at Kevin, who was completely ignoring Jason, and asked him quietly, Kevin, why don't you change seats? When Kevin heard his wife speak, he immediately smiled and nodded. All right, Lily, as you wish. Then he stood up and walked to a different seat and sat down. But he didn't look at Jason and Phoebe Anderson again. Jason was livid, but after all, he had to protect his image in front of Phoebe, so he naturally couldn't act too impetuously. Phoebe had just sat down when she unconsciously looked at Lily with a gaze that pierced right through her. In fact, Phoebe was actually looking at the Dream Lover necklace on Lily's neck. The Dream Lover necklace was something Phoebe had desired for a long time, but up until now, even though her family was in the jewelry business, there was no way for her to actually get one herself. She couldn't have imagined that she would see the long-cherished Dream Lover necklace hanging gracefully on Lily's neck. With her professional and trained eye, she could tell right away that Lily's necklace was real. Lily felt weird to be stared at so intently and felt slightly self-conscious. Miss Anderson, I can't help but notice that you're staring at me. Is there something wrong? Phoebe smiled apologetically. Sorry, Miss Williams. Actually, I wanted to ask, where did you buy your Dream Lover necklace? Sensing the envy in Phoebe's gaze, Lily's ego got a little boost. She never expected that a rich young lady like Phoebe Anderson would envy a piece of jewelry that she owned. Lily found this feeling to be very satisfying. Lily cleared her throat softly. This was given to me by a friend. Phoebe nodded in understanding as her gaze stayed glued to the Dream Lover. I'd like to ask you a favor. Could you perhaps ask your friend to help me buy a Dream Lover necklace? After saying this, she seemed worried that Lily might turn down her request and quickly added, Don't worry, I'm not asking for a gift. How much did he pay for this beautiful necklace? I will pay him double. Double the price? Everyone around the table who heard the conversation between Phoebe and Lily was shocked. A Dream Lover necklace was worth almost $3 million. Double the price was close to $6 million. She was indeed the most prominent member of the Anderson family. Such wealth. As Lily and Phoebe were sitting together, the contrast between them was obvious. One was gentle and graceful, and the other was detached and elegant. The men in the room were infatuated with them, and the women were envious of them. Dorothy saw that her daughter hadn't responded yet and kicked her leg gently under the table. "What are you spacing out for? Hurry up and answer her question." Lily looked at her mother, and only then did she realize that everyone was staring at her. She had no choice but to take her phone out of her bag. It took her a few seconds to find Bradley Smith's phone number in her contact list. She placed the call and waited anxiously. Kevin watched Lily's actions with an amused smile. He was pretty sure he knew who she was calling. Anyway, he was sure it wouldn't be him. If his guess was right, it was probably Bradley Smith. The call was answered pretty quickly. Lily saw Phoebe staring at her very intently and decided to put it on speaker. Dorothy was close enough to see Bradley Smith's name on the screen and couldn't hide her displeasure. She glanced in Kevin's direction. So it was Bradley Smith who gave Lily the necklace. Dorothy couldn't imagine what would happen if Kevin found out about this. She hoped that he and Lily wouldn't argue over it, especially here at the banquet. It would definitely be awkward for everyone. Bradley Smith was sitting alone at a roadside cafe drinking a beer when his phone rang. Someone from the Williams family had recently told him to keep his distance from them because he had offended one of them. Smith's finances were suddenly in jeopardy, and then the company's tax problem was discovered. He'd lost everything, practically overnight. Up until now, Smith still hadn't figured out who it was that he had offended. He didn't even look at the caller ID. He put down his beer and answered the phone with a gloomy voice. "Hello? Who is it?" Lily's face stiffened and she felt a little uncomfortable. After all, Bradley Smith had always been gentle and considerate to her. Why did he sound so down today?
"Bradley, it's me, Lily. I have something to ask you. Would it be possible for you to buy another Dream Lover necklace?"
When he realized that it was Lily calling, Bradley Smith immediately brightened up. He quickly cleared his throat and adjusted his tone of voice. "Lily, I'm really sorry. I was just having a rough day. So I'm sorry if my tone was so negative. Did you just ask me about the fake Dream Lover necklace?" "Fake?" Lily immediately frowned and looked at Phoebe, who also had the same surprised expression. This was impossible. They couldn't both be mistaken about this. The necklace Lily was wearing was definitely genuine. Bradley Smith sighed on the other end of the phone.
"Yes, it's a copy. Unfortunately, your husband threw it on the ground, but luckily it wasn't broken. I took it home with me. If you want it, I'll send it over to you right now."
Lily was incredibly confused. If the real necklace wasn't given to her by Bradley Smith, then who would have given it to her? She just couldn't figure out who would be willing to spend $2.8 million to give her a Dream Lover necklace. After hanging up the phone, Lily saw how disappointed Phoebe looked. Embarrassed and confused, she murmured, "I'm really sorry, Miss Anderson. I really don't know who gave me this necklace." Phoebe let out a sigh and shrugged it off. "That's fine, Mrs. Williams. I have to say that I've just had no luck finding my own Dream Lover." So Phoebe was disappointed and Lily was extremely perplexed. Because the banquet had already begun, they just picked up their forks and ate, lost in thought. While Lily was absent-mindedly eating her meal, she unconsciously looked over at Kevin, who was digging into his own plate of food. She remembered very clearly that Kevin had said that he would give her the real Dream Lover necklace. Could it really be him? After all, he could easily find $4 million to help her company, couldn't he? But then she thought about it again. The Dream Lover was worth almost $3 million. No matter how cleverly Kevin could borrow money, it would be very difficult to get another $3 million after already giving her all that money to help her company. On top of that, He'd also have to figure out a way to find and purchase an authentic dream lover. How could he possibly do all that? Lily was still thinking too much. Whoever had given her the dream lover was definitely not Kevin. By now, Kevin was almost full. He put down his knife and fork and picked up his napkin to wipe his mouth. His eyes fell on Phoebe, who was sitting next to Lily. He suddenly remembered why she seemed so familiar. The Anderson family controlled one of the companies that wanted to cooperate with Williams Media. In the file that Miss Wilson had prepared about the Anderson family, there was a publicity photo of Phoebe Anderson. This Miss Anderson was definitely an interesting woman. As Kevin understood it, she was raised by her father to be the company's deputy president at a young age. She was already a reliable executive with a lot of experience. Although the dress she wore to the event wasn't very conspicuous, the simple ring on her finger was worth more than enough to buy a villa in the south of Italy. Others might not notice it at all, but Kevin could tell at a glance. The ring Phoebe was wearing was a valuable antique. Kevin knew this because of all the time that he spent with his grandfather when he was young. Even in his childhood, he had come into contact with numerous professional figures in various industries. Starting when he was about 10 years old, he got to spend nearly 3 years with Claude Fields, an internationally renowned appraiser, to learn how to identify and appraise antiques. The ring Phoebe was wearing had a unique design. It was made of pure gold, and it had a ruby of nearly perfect color set in a golden flower. He was certain that it was from the Middle Ages and had to have been worn by royalty. Based on the ruby alone, it was worth a fortune, but with the history likely attached to it, Kevin estimated that the ring was worth about $3 million. Just as Kevin was thinking about giving Lily a beautiful ring one of these days, Grandma Jones stood up and walked to the stage. With a great big smile, she spoke to the guests. "Quiet, please. Lily, please tell everyone about the secret of your successful negotiation with Williams Media. How did you do it? We would all love to know." Grandma Jones couldn't stop smiling. She gestured for Lily to go up on the stage and then went back to take her seat. Lily stood up nervously and hesitated for a few seconds. She didn't go on the stage, but instead remained standing by her seat, slightly embarrassed. "Actually, it was nothing at all. When I went over that day, I didn't get to see the president of Williams Media. It was his secretary who brought me the contract and asked me to sign it." Everyone was astonished to hear this. "What? They signed the contract right away?" Someone said, "So, just like Jason, she didn't get to see the new CEO of Williams Media either." Another added, "I thought she was very capable. Seems like she was just lucky that she went there when the new president of Williams Media was in a good mood. That's why she got the contract." Jason, who was sitting beside Grandma Jones, couldn't help but sneer when he heard the comments coming from the crowd. He turned his head to see Grandma Jones's reaction, but he was already coming up with an idea to get even with Lily for making him look bad. Jason spoke up loudly so that everyone in the room could hear. "Grandma, I think this is really unfair. When I went to Williams Media, maybe the new CEO was just in a bad mood. That's why he had his assistant chase me out. This time when Lily went there, he must have realized how sincere our family was about working with them. That's why he gave us the contract." Jason glanced at Lily dismissively and raised his voice a little. "I think that the second person to go to Williams Media would have gotten the contract anyway, no matter who they were." Lily clenched her fist as she glared at Jason, but she couldn't find the words to answer him. Grandma Jones, who had always loved Jason, listened intently to what her grandson had said. She nodded in agreement. "JJ is right. Lily, you earned the contract with Williams Media pretty easily, but it's not all because of you. JJ also put in a lot of work and he suffered a lot. Obviously, half of the credit goes to him." Lily was extremely annoyed by Grandma Jones's speech, but she didn't dare to argue with her. How could she? Jason was clearly stealing the credit for her accomplishment. Of course, Jason was very happy with the outcome. This definitely wasn't going well for Lily.